What's up, guys? How's it going? This is Phil. How's everybody doing out there today? So this is a topic that has been really just on fire, and it's unfortunate. These are the kind of things that tend to bum me out. Racist, misogynistic messages show dark side of Star Wars fandom. This whole issue with Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico in The Last Jedi. It's unfortunate. Now, I haven't seen anything indicating that she's come out to address the issue. A lot of this right now is just conjecture on a lot of these websites, and it's an opportunity for whoever is a shill to kind of take a pivot point and use the fandom that has been very vocal and has voiced a lot of displeasure with Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams and everybody else, and the way that they've been handling this Star Wars franchise. It's a way for them to kind of switch up and change the narrative. Now go back and attacked us. So if this is in fact why Kelly Marie Tran did delete her Instagram posts, then that's sad and that needs to be addressed. Absolutely. If that is not the case, Lucasfilm and Disney and everybody else involved knows it not to be the fact. Then you know what, that is really disgusting. That's bad on them, because they're kind of allowing this to snowball here, because up until this point, everything in the news regarding Star Wars is about the failure of Solo and the possible firing of Kathleen Kennedy and what's wrong with Disney and Lucasfilm and Disney finally have released the first Star Wars bomb, and it's going to lose upwards of 80 million, and it was over budget, and all of these things are like, they're just so bad. And now to kind of have this to change things up, I mean, it's a game of three card Monty. And that everyone that's kind of not following this as deeply as a lot of the fans are, they'll read these articles casually, and they will make the leap that a lot of the fans who are very passionate are really just bad people. And I think a lot of us know that not to be the case. I mean, chances are if you're watching my video, which again, I don't have a large subscriber base, but if you subscribe to Comic Artist Pro Secrets, the character of Rose Tico has ironically come to be celebrated over there, and Ethan has close to 60,000 subscribers, and it's the character itself is a butt of jokes, but Ethan never gets on there and bashes Kelly Marie Tran. He doesn't. He bashed the character initially, but now she's become kind of a mascot on a channel that is on the grow, ridiculously on the grow. I mean, he's adding 10,000 subscribers a week. It seems like 1,000 a day easily. And the character Tico is much beloved. So, ironically, it's much beloved. But nobody is going off and they shouldn't be. But it's nobody's going off and harassing this woman. And if they are, it's not at the behest of Ethan's channel. He's on the contrary, he's told people to never do something like that on his behalf. He just doesn't think that it's appropriate behavior. So are there fans out there that are going to be kind of mavericks and do what they want to do and take this character, an actress that plays it, and kind of combine them and lump them into one and the same, and then attack her as a result in a way to kind of vent frustrations? Yeah, that's going to happen, especially on the internet. You just can't escape something like that. But I think at the end of the day, we as fans, that's not something that we really want. I think what we want, again, are if you're going to introduce a character like Rose Tico, have her introduced because the character makes sense to the story, because she plays some kind of a significant role. The character that they introduced with Rose, it could have been anybody. It could have been any gender or any race. It could have been an alien or robot. It just kind of served purpose to slow things down in the movie. The Canto Bight scene is just a horrible kind of side mission that really just meanders and goes nowhere, and it stalls the tempo of that movie. I don't understand, what they were really thinking. They could have edited it down, or at least try to make it better. It just seemed like an exercise in making another version of the cantina scene, which we've seen. The cantina scene, we've seen Jabba's palace, we've seen Maz Kanata's bar or speakeasy, whatever it is, her establishment. So we've seen this several times, and this was probably the worst version of it. So again, congratulations, Rian Johnson, on accomplishing that. Let's just kind of skim through this. New York, the dark side of Star Wars fandom recently reared its ugly head. Kelly Tran actually plays Rotika on Star Wars Last Jedi, was run off Instagram by misogynistic and racist messages. I haven't seen the message. I don't know what they said, and if there are anything like this, it's just it's the bottom of the barrel. I mean, it's the most awful thing that people can just kind of go. It's the easiest thing to do, to attack a person's race or their gender. So it's something I think the fans of Star Wars do not appreciate being saddled with. The vast majority of us are not like that. Let's see, fans who didn't like a character, but episode was not an uncommon one. Daisy Ridley, so she quit social media for a time, but then it came up that she just needed a break. So there's an article I think that points to that. Let's see, who didn't approve her entry to pop culture world? This guy's sense of ownership, such toxic abuse. This has become a big buzzword now, toxic. I know I've said it in prior videos, but now it's become like an easy thing to kind of throw out there. Toxic abuse has long been a staple of darker social media realms. Fan group message boards, internet comment pages, session. Loving or poisonous has helped fuel the most dedicated fan bases. Those fervors craved and cultivated billion-dollar brands, but it's going heaped on Tran, a 29-year-old newcomer who's been overjoyed at her introduction into Star Wars. Sparked a backlash of its own. What's not to love, said Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker. Actually, in Last Jedi, he played Jake Skywalker. He used to be Luke Skywalker. With a photo of himself and Tran and hashtag Get a Life Nerds. Let's see. Affectionate fan art of Tran's character began circling widely on Twitter. The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. If anyone's to blame for planting the seed of this, it's Rian Johnson. He's the one who wrote this story. He wrote The Last Jedi. He wrote that character into it, who served no real purpose. Really, that side mission should have been Finn and Poe Dameron. They should have taken a shuttle away from the fleet, snuck away, had a side mission, not necessarily Canto Bight. They had great chemistry, in my opinion, in The Force Awakens when Finn rescues him in the beginning of the movie, and they make their escape in a TIE fighter. I love their back and forth dialogue. It was punchy, and it felt very much, for me at least, like two Star Wars characters that I could have a lot of fun with. And they just they separated them, and they put Finn with Rey, and that was okay too. But I was really looking forward to getting more screen time between Poe and Finn, and they didn't. And they made Finn a buffoon, and that's another character that they can't seem to get right. And him being a former stormtrooper and then becoming a part of the Resistance is a really good story to tell, and they've kind of failed to do that properly. It could have made for a compelling story, and they just have him basically as this dope who runs around. He's either trying to get away or he's following Rey around because he's in love. And then they saddle him with Kelly Marie Tran's Rose Tico in one of the most pointless side stories ever conceived for any movie whatsoever. So it's just, and Rian Johnson, he gets on social media And he said, few unhealthy people can cast a big shadow on the wall, but over the past 4 years, I've met lots of real Star Wars fans, said Johnson. We like and discuss stuff, but we do it with humor, love, and respect. We're the vast majority. We're having fun and doing it. No, it's you and a portion of the fandom. Maybe it's half, okay? But the other half is not. It's not the vast majority. It is not. You look at Rotten Tomato scores, fan reviews. That's a split. All right. If you look at if you go over to Geeks and Gamers, recently, Jeremy discussed the Blu-ray sales for The Last Jedi, and they're essentially half of what The Force Awakens was. And that's a good indicator, because you can go see a movie and you can be duped. But when the movie comes to the shelves, if a group really loves the movie, all right, a fan community, the fandom, whatever you want to call it, they'll buy it, they'll purchase it, they'll support it, they support the merchandise. That movie, and a Blu-ray is an easy purchase. It's one of the indicators, and people who miss something in the theater, they go and pick it up when it comes out on Blu-ray. I've done that with a handful of Marvel movies, and I buy all of the Marvel movies on Blu-ray because I support the product. Whether or not I see them in the theater, I buy them because I want them in my library. This movie was so divisive and so much of a disgusting dumpster fire that people didn't buy it. They half of them took a pass on it. So this where the vast majority is, those are the ramblings of a delusional person who's trying to justify his movie's existence and marginalize and diminish and belittle a large portion of the fan community who's been very vocal and unaccepting of what he turned out back in December. And he's the one who wrote that character. All right. He's a masochist. He wants to fail. He half wants to fail. So all of this that's going on, this is all part of his hand-wringing, diabolical plan that he concocted. I mean, the guy's like an evil genius to get in there and undermine. If this was his intention, it is one of the craziest, premeditated assassinations of a beloved franchise and fan community to throw it in this much disarray. It's just insanity, what he did. Okay, so let's go. Who's today's Star Wars fan? Well, that's me. And I'm 42. Okay, and it's my nephew. He's 3. He's about to be 4. He loves Star Wars. And I'll tell you another thing. He kind of loves the original Star Wars characters. I go over, my brother's not a big fan, not at all. But I go over to the house and I see my nephew, and it's all Chewbacca and Han Solo and R2-D2 and C-3PO and Yoda and Princess Leia, and Darth Vader and Boba Fett. It's all original trilogy characters. And he goes to the story as his choice, and these are the characters that he gravitates towards. He doesn't know who Finn is. He doesn't know who Rey is. He just doesn't know. He doesn't care. And that's a problem. That's a failure on the current state of affairs at Lucasfilm. That little kids still would prefer movies that are 40 years old compared to the stuff they're putting out today. Now look, he'll watch the new movies and he enjoys them because it's Star Wars. But for some reason, he seems to gravitate towards these classic characters. So again, whatever they're going to be doing with these new trilogies, they really got to get down to brass tacks and figure out a way to make compelling, fun, accessible characters and tell a great story. And don't worry about checking off lists for inclusion and forcing diversity. Just write a story, and when you go to casting, cast the best person. Doesn't matter who they are, what the race is, and not even necessarily what the gender is. Obviously, if you write for a male, and you should be casting for a male. I mean, in a story, you have men and women who interact, but if there's a possibility, like a character like Ray, Ray is an ambiguous name, so Ray could have been written for either gender. So if you cast for Ray, and you're like, you know what, we wrote this for a male, but that Daisy really kind of wowed us. Let's take a shot and see. I don't have a problem with that. It's just being forceful with your need for inclusion and diversity. It's just tell a story. The basic principles of storytelling have existed for centuries. Trying to figure out a new way to do it because you think you're going to get a demographic to come that probably doesn't have any interest in this anyway. They're gonna like to know that you did what you did, and that they're represented and included, and then they'll go back to the coffee shop and then sit around and read articles about it, but they won't necessarily go to see it. And if they do go to see it, they're not going to see it multiple times like all of the fans did decades ago, and even with The Force Awakens, because that really played on a lot of what made the originals great. You didn't have all of these other wackos going to see it multiple times. You had the fans, the real fans, the fans that are apparently so toxic, that didn't show up to Solo. If we feel that we're getting good Star Wars, well, look at the way that we show out. And we can't wait to give you money. We can't. It's just hand over fist. All right? You can't stop us from giving the money. Please take our money. Few have gotten a better look at the remaining man babies of Star Wars, as Johnson called. Yeah, good job, buddy. Good job. That's why Solo. One of the reasons why Solo failed, because these types of things, and there's plenty of women who are fans of Star Wars. Okay, these types of things are inciting the fans to give you a middle finger with their wallet. All right. Call them. Then Robert Smigel, the comedian behind Triumph the Insult Dog, when Attack of the Clones was released, he memorably took Triumph to visit fans, many of them costumed, camped outside of New York's Ziegfeld Theater. Return of the Dorks, Triumph dubbed it. That's actually a really funny video. I love this video. As a Star Wars fan, I thought it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen related to Star Wars. I suggest anyone who hasn't seen it to go on YouTube and just look up Triumph. I guess it's Return of the Dorks, or Triumph Attack of the Clones, whatever it is. It is funny as hell. It is really, it's laugh out loud funny. If you watch that and you're a Star Wars fan and you don't take yourself too seriously, you take Star Wars seriously but not yourself too seriously, you will have a lot of fun watching that because it's really funny. So let's see. Okay, so this just goes into some of what he's. All right, we don't care about your take on Don Rickles. All right, in a week where Star Wars fandom reached its lowest point, and not because Solo, a Star Wars story, has nosedived at the box office, it's helpful to remember that earlier, more innocent pre-social media chapters in Star Wars fandom, it showed the value of a healthy dose of self-deprecation for any fanboy. Let's see, I'm a fan of Star Trek too. I have a deep affection for people who obsess on things because I identify. This is Schmeigel still speaking. I'm a nerd in different ways. I obsessed on Peanuts when I was a kid. So did I. Love Snoopy. And dressed up that way. And I was Snoopy a couple of Halloweens in a row. 4, 5, 6 years old. Granted, when I was an adult, I got past it. I still dress up as Snoopy. It's weird, I know. Don't judge me. Smigel laughing. There's something incredibly endearing about anyone who's passionate about anything except for Holocaust denying. See. I was upset about it, said Smigel. I took my kids to it and been such joy taking them to new Star Wars films because we're so much closer in spirit to the originals, which I love. The Force Awakens was close to the original spirit, even though it was a little bit regurgitated. Let's see. It's just sad because that's what the internet has become. It's become this loud minority. It's true. There's tens of thousands of us fans out there, and there's always going to be a few that spoil it. It doesn't seem to me that they represent the majority of the people that saw that movie. Correct. People enjoy pushing buttons, also true, in both political matters and matters of extreme trivia. The Last Jedi, which dared to break some of the box office norms. But I'm sorry. Last Jedi, I read that wrong. The Last Jedi, which dared to break some of the Star Wars norms. Yeah, taking characters that were supposed to be heroes and turning them into grumpy old hermits who don't act. They just sit around on their ass and drink milk from a 4-titty sea cow. Yeah, that was cutting edge. That was really that broke the norm, all right. Proved this to be especially divisive. Yes, among not just aficionados of normal people who had good taste and enjoyed a hero's journey. Other efforts to boost multiculturalism and gender equality, aka forced diversity in Hollywood blockbusters, have provoked politically tinged responses. Before he was president, Donald Trump was among those to criticize the female-led Ghostbusters, which became a lightning rod in 2016. I haven't seen the Ghostbusters movie. Every friend of mine who has, and they're not geeky like I am, but they like these types of fun movies, and we're all fans of Ghostbusters. I mean, who wasn't a fan of Ghostbusters? All of my friends, none of them liked it. None, not one. I can't find a friend who liked this movie. I actually have a friend of mine. I have my best friend, his wife. She's a big Ghostbusters fan. I wouldn't necessarily consider her a geek, but there are movies that she's geeky about. She loves the original Ghostbusters. She loves E.T. She's happy to go watch a Star Wars movie. She loves Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, she's a big she's a big Ghostbusters fan, and I will go over to the house to hang out with my buddy, and sometimes I'll walk past the living room and she's there just watching Ghostbusters, or she's doing something else and she has Ghostbusters on in the background. And I asked her one day, I go, did you see the new one? She said, yeah, I saw it. And it just like this look of pain came over her face. And I said, what did you think? Because it really just got kind of eviscerated by a lot of people. And she just looked at me and she was like, it was the biggest waste of time. It was a horrible movie, and it's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. and there you go. And she's a strong woman. You think she'd be all on that, but she's like, no, it's a bad movie. I don't care if there's women in there. It's a bad movie. It could have been a good movie. It just wasn't that good, and that's why I don't like it. It sucks, and I mean, there you have it. So that's what happens. If people see through the nonsense, they don't. When you try to force things at the sake of telling the good story into a movie, you can only get away with that stuff for so long. All right, and then people eventually are gonna sniff you out and call you on your bullshit. All right, it's just the way things are. And yeah, that movie was a lightning rod in 2016, that's for sure. The vitriol of the overindulged fanboys has long been an unfortunate common component of blockbuster entertainment, from Marvel movies to Game of Thrones, but just as other long ingrained practices of a historical male-dominated movie industry are being reshaped, the sway of the sexist superfan may be waning. More than the low grosses of Solo, the treatment of Tran poses a potentially damaging challenge to the franchise. If these are Star Wars fans, who wants to be a Star Wars fan? Well, look, these are that is a small percentage of the Star Wars fans who go out and harass people. And those are people who have mental issues. And again, we don't know why Kelly Marie Tran took down her Instagram. I believe it's still up. It's just she took down all of her posts. So she didn't exactly outright delete it. So for some reason, maybe she's just taking a break. Do I think she was harassed? Yeah, certainly. Is that the reason why she took it down? I don't know. And here's the thing. Well, let's just finish this. If these are Star Wars fan, who wants to be a Star Wars fan? I want to be a Star Wars fan. I just don't want to be an asshole Star Wars fan. I'm happy being a passionate fan, the fan that I am, the fan that has put up the last several videos that I have. I'm happy being that kind of a fan. I don't want to be an awful fan. Ironically, it was Tran's rousing moment in The Last Jedi that supplied the best answer. This is how we win, says Rose. Not fighting what we hate, saving what we love. Yeah, that was such a groan-worthy part in the movie, and I blame Rian Johnson, not not Kelly Tran, for that. And that scene in and of itself further helped to undermine the character of Finn, who was a buffoon and a goof and a dope the whole film and played for laughs, and then he finally has a hero's moment a sacrificial hero's moment, and it gets ripped out from underneath him. That moment would have been talked about. And you know what's funny about that too? When Rose first meets him, she goes on and saying how he's a resistance hero, and he knows it's not really the case. And then, when he has a moment to actually be a hero, she takes it out from underneath him. I mean, what irony, And then they give the hero's moment to Captain Holdo with the hyperspace jump, which should have been given to Admiral Akbar. But it is fun. It's funny how she thought he was a hero, and he helped the resistance. But then when he tries to be a hero, she takes that out from underneath him. What a joke! Holy cow! All right. Yeah, you just lose yourself in all of this. All right. So look, very lovely, very pretty, smart, witty, funny. Just seems like a really nice person. Just a good person. Kelly Marie Tran. If she's experienced this type of stuff, it's completely uncalled for. It's dismaying, and it bums me out to no end. The thing with Disney and Lucasfilm, they're just letting this kind of stew, and that's a big problem. It's almost like they're using this as a diversionary tactic. So what they need to do is, I'm sure they have her number, right? She's gearing up to start shooting episode 9 in July. They need to get on the horn with her or her agent and release a statement, okay, saying that Kelly Marie is just taking a break from social media. It has nothing to do with any of the speculation involved. Or release a statement saying Kelly Marie felt that she was being attacked, and as a result decided she could not tolerate any more of the name calling, any of the racist, misogynistic nonsense that was showing up on her Twitter feed or her Instagram, and she's decided, for the time being at least, perhaps indefinitely, to take a break from Instagram and social media. Say something. You're letting all of these other reporters and shill sites and everything, you're letting them stew. It's like Kathleen Kennedy got together in an evil lair, some kind of dark boardroom with all of her other cronies, and they're like, oh, we're getting destroyed over this whole Solo fiasco, what can we do? And she's sitting there like, just kind of pondering in her pantsuit, and she's like, oh, I know what, why don't we have Kelly Marie take down her Instagram, and then somebody will have that Star Wars Twitter account pointed out, and everyone will lose their minds, and then they'll think the fanboys are awful. The same fanboys that everyone now is listening to will turn the media back against them. And this is what ends up happening, and here we are. So bad on you, Disney and Lucasfilm. I mean, again, this is more bumbling on the part of Disney and Lucasfilm and whoever's handling public relations over there. I mean, it has been a parade of calamity. Like it just doesn't seem to stop. So I don't know. That's my thoughts. I hope Kelly's doing okay. Again, she seems like just the sweetest person. Doesn't deserve this kind of nonsense. And I think the fans widely would embrace her and take her back. We don't like what the character is, but I don't think the fans blame her for that. I think anyone in their right mind would just blame Rian Johnson for all of this. So they wrote a dopey character. They dressed her up like a potato sack. They threw her in the middle of a trilogy with a side story that made no sense. She undermines the character of Finn. She delivers groan-worthy lines. Her sister Paige has way less screen time and seems to be far more competent and fascinating. They should have had Paige survive somehow, and then go off on that side mission with Finn, if anything. I mean, she seems like a very strong female character that you want in Star Wars. So I don't know. What do you guys think? This video went way longer than I thought it would, but there's been days of this stuff kind of building up, so I guess I had to get a lot of it off my chest. Do you guys think that Disney is kind of handling this all wrong, like they've done everything else? Are you what about the fan base? I mean, do you think this is something that's kind of running rampant, or is this only just a select few individuals who are really kind of giving things a black eye? How do you feel about Kelly? I mean, I think a lot of us just, we have a lot of apathy towards the character of Rose Tico, but I don't think anyone really dislikes Kelly for that. I mean, she's just an actress doing her job. All right, that's it, guys. Listen, if you got through this one, give me a like, and if you want to hear more of my takes on this as things continue to unfold, give it a subscribe and hit that bell, and anytime I post a new video, you'll be notified. And that's really it. That's all that's going on. So have yourselves a great day. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Take care. Be happy. Be safe. Be healthy. Have a wonderful day. Bye.